No longer will 1984 by George Orwell be the only book I can recall reading twice. Hello, my name is Floss. This is the Grape Jelly Library, where we love to talk about books. Thank you for joining me. I always look forward to your visit. All right, so those of you who watch my channel know I am not a big rereader of books. I am kind of one and done. Well, I'm definitely one and done. There's too many books out there for me to chase. And for me, I feel like I've already gotten my experience out of that book, and that would have been my most authentic reaction to the book. So I don't generally like to persuade myself into another direction, but on occasion I will. And so I have done that with George Orwell's 1984. When I first read this book, I disliked it so much. I was like traveling in a car when I was reading a good portion. I had already begun the book and I wasn't digging it. And then I was traveling in a car. I had like 2-3 hours to go. And I thought this would be a good time to try and, finish this or get a good portion of it read. This is how it went. It was a beautiful, warm, it was like extremely hot, I should say, summer day. And I was like all the feels. I was enjoying that blue sky and the white puffy clouds and the heat on my skin. And I was, I'm not a traveler. I'm not big on that. But I was not minding it because I had a book. But, what it did to my mental state of mind, this book wrecked me, not in a good way. So much so, I never even wanted to pick this book up again. Never wanted to touch this book again. Although it is a stunner of a book, isn't it? It is. And I probably bought it for 2 reasons. Because it's a gorgeous book cover, and because I felt like I should probably know something about this story. But I came out a disbeliever. I wasn't convinced, with this one. So I think it was a year or so later, I decided I was going to give it another chance. Everything and everyone deserves a second chance. So I don't know if I convinced myself to like it a little bit more. Should I have just walked away from it and let it be what it was? I don't know, but I did give it a second chance, and I did fare out a little better the second time. I didn't quite dislike it as much. I got a better understanding of what George Orwell was trying to do to his reader and how he wanted his story to come across, and how as readers we explore worlds that are unfamiliar to us but very familiar to others. And I always want to be sympathetic and at times when it applies, empathetic. So that's why I think that my eyes were opened a little bit more to this book. And so now I no longer have a dislike for it. And I would recommend reading this and coming out of this book with your own opinions and your own, this book is, some of you out there, it's your absolute favorite. And I always love when a book that might not be my favorite is somebody else's, because now we have something to talk about. We don't have something to debate. We have something to talk about. I feel like I can learn something from your viewpoints. So there's that. No hard feelings. Okay, now let's talk about a book that is my favorite. My very favorite book of all time. And many of you out there, you could care less about this one. Oh, I can't believe why, but I get it. I'm just teasing. I get it. Okay, so are you ready? Here we go. A book I think I am going to reread because as I was reading it, love, pure book joy, love, couldn't get enough of it, raced home like I was counting the minutes till I could get out of work and come home and hurry up. And I was carnivorous back then. Whip up a meatloaf with mashed potatoes and some corn on the cob and a salad. There, the family is fed, and now Floss is going on the couch, and I am going to lie there. I specifically remember lying on the couch, half on, half off. I had a pillow under my head. My upper half was on the couch, and from the crook of my knees down was hanging over the arm of the couch. And I just read and read and read and read. And I read with pure bliss. Okay, Floss, what is this book? It is John Steinbeck, East of Eden. I love the out of this book. I honestly do. This is the book that turned me into a reader. So I am a great lover of trees, and I am a great lover of the color cream, and I am a great lover of paper. So like this book was speaking to me even before I knew anything about it. And I remember I bought this at a major chain store. Didn't even go to the bookstore. I was in I'll call it a department store, for lack of a better word. I picked it up in their book section, and this is when their book section varied. It carried like a lot of genres. Now I notice when you go to the store, it's targeted. Yeah, there's a lot of fiction books going on that pertain to, fictitious murders or romances, or it's just a different vibe in the book department of major chain stores now. I don't think you could much well walk in and pick a book like this up like I did back in the day. But again, when was that? 24 years ago. All right. So I read, the Salinas Valley is in Northern California. It is a long, narrow swale between two ranges of mountains, and the Salinas River winds and twists up the center until it falls at last into Monterey Bay. I have chills. Don't ask me why this book speaks to me, but it does. But as I had begun to read it, or as I was reading it, we learned of a character in this book who goes by the name of Kathy. And Kathy is like, she's like, well, the book kept me coming back, but Kathy really had me coming back. I had to see how Kathy was treating her girls. Now, if you didn't know, this book was, I'm not sure if it still is, but it definitely was banned in areas due to profanity and prostitution. So I've never seen the movie, the adaptations with James Dean or any of that, and I probably never ever will. But I'm told that it varies quite differently than this book. So it's a retelling of Cain and Abel. And the families that we are learning about are the Trasks and the Hamiltons. And oddly enough, they are real relatives of John Steinbeck. After I read this book, you bet your bippy I went and I got Travels with Charlie, Sweet Thursday, Cannery Row, The Red Pony, The Wayward Bus. All of them. I remember reading The Wayward Bus in the summertime. I was on a lawn chair in the yard, and I was like, shh, shh. The only creatures that are allowed to make a noise in my vicinity right now are the birds chirping, because I have to engulf everything that John Steinbeck wrote, because this was the trigger that led me down the John Steinbeck road. And so, yes, he is my favorite author, always will be. And I love his writing style. I come from a flood. I was 1 year old when Flood Agnes 1972 hit. And although I don't remember it, I've seen pictures. I see the markings around town where the waters crested, and it was a lot. Was it like over 40 feet? The lives that were lost in that flood, and the livelihood that was ruined, and how everybody had to rebuild. Everything was destroyed. But those people were determined, hardworking, to rebuild their houses and get all that sludge out of their house. And just, I don't know, it was something to see, because growing up as a 6 and 7 year old, there was never any kind of litter or debris along the curbs, on the roads, on the sidewalks. Nobody littered. Give a hoot, don't pollute. Nobody littered. And if somebody did try to be a smart aleck and throw a soda can, somebody else would tell them about it. Even a child would not be afraid to say, hey, never be a dirty bird. So, people swept their sidewalks, their porches, and the road. And I don't know, I remember walking down the street and there were flags hanging out everywhere, American flags hanging out. And, people did not have a lot, but what they had, they took care of. Some of our neighbors didn't, they had their essentials, their couch, their table, their refrigerators, their television, carpeting, all that kind of stuff. They might just have run a little bit short for linoleum for the kitchen floor, but guess what? They mopped those floorboards. They kept them floorboards clean, and that's where I come from. We might not have had a lot, but what we had was clean. And that's, I think, why I resonate with this book, and especially The Grapes of Wrath, who, I incurred a flood. They are Dust Bowl. But it's just the writing style. It's the writing style in general. It's the hardship. It's the way of life. It's the non-judgment. It's the good versus evil. You know right from wrong. You have choices to make. Which path will you go down? It's a grabber. It grabs you, and it makes you think and reflect. How about that? If you don't read this book and find anything in your own life to reflect upon or to ponder, then I don't know. I think this book is dynamite. I'm so glad that I read it, and I cannot let 1984 be the only book that I've reread, or at least recall rereading. I have to reread my boy. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to read a chapter a day until I get this book reread again, And then I'm going to see if my thoughts pertaining to this book hold true, or now, 24 years later, I feel like I have a little bit of me, that the world hasn't maybe beaten up or whatever, but I don't feel like I'm like that naive anymore. I don't know, maybe I am, but I feel like I've grown, I've matured, I've learned a lot. Will I come out of this book at 54 the same way I did when I was a little speckled pup, 30? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Whatever you are reading, I hope you are having a ball. Be well, be good, be reading, and know that I love you.